Bienvenidos a Colombia Antigua. La historia es para compartirla sin egoísmo. Es por eso que cada video tiene el enlace y la información de dónde fue descargado. Esperamos que los videos y la información sean útiles para usted.
Subsisting on the riverbank, Tomás nets fish, including piranha, to eat and to sell in town. Tomás has only the bare necessities: a simple house, his hammock and mosquito net, fishing gear, and just a few other things.
Era una culebra que llama por aquí cuatro narices. Sí, cuatro narices.
His true grit comes through telling this story about surviving the bite of a fer de lance, a deadly poisonous snake, and then getting drunk to celebrate afterwards. The alcohol he drank to celebrate, against doctor's orders, almost killed him, as it reacted violently with a snakebite antidote. He says, of course some people know more than others. Among the few staples he buys in town are cigarettes and the local firewater called aguardiente. Life along the river is simple and rough. The squatters, or colonos, own the riverbanks. Each one slashes and burns out a clearing big enough for a house and sometimes a small garden or some pasture. The general philosophy here is that there is always a fish to catch and a banana to pick. When the river is low during the dry season, fish are easy to catch and everyone eats fairly well. During the rainy season, the river rises, making fish harder to catch, and the colonos sometimes have to find other work. This man, Arturo, contracted with a neighboring rancher to plant rice on some river-flooded land. Winnowing the harvest in an old tin pan indicates the scale of the operation. Still, it is a good little business for both Arturo and the rancher, providing some income and keeping the land productive. Here there is no TV, and spare time pleasures are as simple as everything else. For unskilled laborers, the jobs available are interesting only when dangerous. Lumbering far from the roads in forested mountains means that hand-sawed timbers must be taken across deep ravines one at a time on high wires. It's work only for the young and strong. Whether lumbering in the mountains or loading on docksides on the coast, the labor situation is the same. Colombia's industrializing economy is now at a stage in which there are tractors, cement mixers, and factory equipment being imported and put to use, but there is still a lot of arm and leg and back power being applied. On small farms in the countryside, barely touched by the developing modern world in the city, things hardly change. The men still plant and hoe small gardens and build whatever the family needs. The women stay pregnant and in the kitchen, and the children gather firewood, carry water, and do other chores. This is Maria, a mother of 13. She lives on a small farm outside of Bogota. Maria led a typical campesino's life until she realized how enslaved by ignorance so many poor people are, especially women, and how difficult it is for them to do anything about it. Studying workbooks from La Escuela Radiofónica, the radio school, she learned to read and write and got a basic education in many subjects. After educating herself, Maria represented Colombia at the Inter-American Conference for Women's Rights. She organizes meetings on community development, which few men in her village attend. Her husband is one of the sensitive few. Maria says she realized too late that she did not have to follow tradition, as she put it, living in any old cave or under any old rock her husband provided, and having all the children God sent. She knows now that with a smaller family, they all would have had a better chance in life. As things were, only her two youngest children got any formal education at all. It is not that people do not want to become something better, she says. The problem is that people have no access to resources, or are simply not aware of resources because of their lack of education. It's all that many people can do just to survive the only way they know how. By her example, Maria is helping to improve things in her community, but she is exceptional, and the progress is slow. On projects like the construction of this water pipeline, the government provides materials and townspeople supply the labor. The organization and involvement of everyone in a town pitching in together for the common good gets people out to dig 100 meters or so a day, for as long as it takes to bring water to their homes. On the larger farms and ranches at the plains' edges, rainforest is cleared for the soil, which is fertile relative to the surrounding savanna. For at least a few years, it takes almost continuous cutting to keep the jungle from growing back. This is done either by hand laborers working with hoes and machetes, or by tractor. Cattle are fattened on grasses alone in these rough-looking but productive pastures. The cattle are tough and resistant. They throw off hoof and mouth disease in a couple of days as if it were a common cold. These cattle are going by truck to Bogota for slaughter. They will lose about 10% of their weight during the difficult trip, which takes at least 6 hours to climb only 120 miles into the Andes. Traveling the steep, twisting roads cut into the mountainsides is breathtaking and sometimes perilous. People are occasionally lost over the edge. There is a terrific variety of transportation on wheels in Colombia. Cars, jeeps, trucks, and buses are imported from the U.S., Japan, and Europe. High import duties make them expensive, so they are kept alive as long as possible, and finally recycled, parts finding their way into all sorts of improvisations. An automobile graveyard or an abandoned car is hard to find. A chiva is an open-air bus providing local jitney service around cities and towns in the warmer climate. Each driver custom decorates his chiva to attract as many passengers with as much luggage and sometimes livestock as he can fit on its benches or on top. They travel often rocky dirt roads on long round trips into the countryside. Building new roads is of paramount importance to the country's growth. A small plane can scrape over the 12,000-foot peaks surrounding Bogota and descend to the new road which will connect Bogota and Colombia's coffee center and second largest city, Medellin, in only 40 minutes. To cover the same distance by jeep takes around 8 hours. The construction goes on dawn to dusk, 7 days a week, and has been going like this for years. Still to cross are wide expanses of this rugged and forested terrain called serranía. These hills pose big engineering challenges concerning erosion by the heavy rains in many streams, how steep the road grades have to be, and where to put all of the earth cut out of the hills. The bulldozer operators are highly skilled and cautious, and they are well paid. The road building operation is neatly symbolic of everything going on in Colombia. The road crosses mountains and rainforest. It connects modern highland cities and passes primitive hamlets in the countryside. The contracting companies are managed by big businessmen from the Bogotano elite who employ both university-educated engineers and illiterate laborers. You see American bulldozers and Colombian picks and shovels. This is the feel of Colombia.